I'm getting really fed up with the camera and the lens and trying to take video while I'm talking, but I'm going to give it one last shot. In 1945, my dad bought a house on the canal, Senex Canal, in Santa Mauritius. For years during the Depression, he had been, and during the war years, he had been bringing food. Excuse me, it wasn't food, it was actually ducks to Mrs. Marks, who owned the mansion on Senex Creek, is what we called it. It really was a creek, I guess, but we called it the creek. In winter, we went ice skating on it. In summer, we went crabbing along the bulkhead, and we kept our boats out front. Our boat was me and my gals for my mom and we three daughters, and our rowboat was called Me Too. We'd always had a boat that I can remember, originally kept either at Uncle Sammy's house way up the creek or at Goldsmith's Boat Yard, which was at the mouth of the creek, at the mouth of the canal. Every time we pass the big white house in our boat, Dad would exclaim how beautiful it was and how much he thought he would like to live there. He really liked Mrs. Marks, the woman who owned the house, whose husband, the captain, I guess had died sometime before. I don't know when, I don't know the history, but in any event, the house was built in the late 1800s. Mom thought it was way too much house, but Dad really coveted it. I think he was actually obsessed with it. So in 1945, Dad, against Mom's objections, bought the house. Mom had Elaine in 1946, October 1946, and I remember being outside in the yard playing when Dad pulled into the driveway. I was probably playing with my cousins, who at that point were living in the caretaker's house on the property. Bill Redman, something. And they had moved out from Central Islip and had a store in town that my dad helped them start called South Bay Sales. I think I mentioned the store once before in connection with Joe Hunt's, who bought me some ceramic deer from the store, and I still have them. They're relics of the 1940s at this point. I'll give them to Donna because she's the deer person in my family, eventually. Meanwhile, we had moved into the house, which was on Union Avenue, and had a long driveway, and Dad had a metal sign about a third of the way up the driveway that said, "Caution, children at play." I think my sister Elaine has that sign now. Either Elaine or Judy, I'm not sure which one, but I think it's Elaine for some reason. We do have some things that we had kept during the time that we lived in the big house, as it was called. Definitely not a prison. In fact, it was total freedom for us children in a day when freedom was possible for children without being threatened. Santa Mauritius was a small town. Everybody knew everyone else. It was a wonderful place to live. It probably still is, even though I no longer live in the village. The house, the White House, as everybody in town calls it, is about a mile south of town, almost to the bay. It survived the 1938 hurricane, and when Mom stripped the wallpaper in the library to put up a mural, we found the watermarks on the wall from when the so-called tidal wave, which is now called a surge, I guess, receded from the town and the houses that it had, I guess, almost demolished. Some of the houses along the water were demolished. The Lindenmere and our house and what we used to call the nunnery, which was a big convent and has now been divided into homes, were the survivors of the 38 hurricane. There is a history of the town in a booklet written by one of the town historians, Mary, which describes the 1938 hurricane and its aftermath. We had dogs at this house, and I had a cat. Naturally, I had a cat. My bedroom was a room that overlooked a roof, a tile roof. The house had tile roofs. They were green. And every night, my cat, Tinklette Eleanor, she was a gray and white cat, would climb the rose trellis at the side of the house, the back of the house actually, and she would come up onto the roof, and I would open the window and let her into my room, and she slept with me every single night. One night, I guess I was sound asleep for a change. Most of the time I was reading under the covers, but this night I was sleeping, and I woke up suddenly to see this white shape moving around on the screen. And I got scared, and I called, "Daddy, Daddy, there's a ghost, a ghost." And Daddy, of course, came running. And when he got into my room, he saw that the white shape on the screen outside my window was Tinklette Eleanor, whom I called Nolly. She was named for Eleanor in the Campfire Girls books, and Tinklette, of course, for Tinkerbell. Anyhow, Nolly's belly was all white, and pressed against the screen the way she was, she looked like a ghost and scared the life out of me. That was one of my first memories of the house on the canal in Santa Mauritius where I grew up. So I'll tell you more another day. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe.